And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Bud Elliott. That's Tom Fornelli. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like and comment. Join us in the chat, aka the Cover 3 tailgate, where Mark wants to get an emergency pod ready for Billy Napier.
What happened?
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Did he nearly knock off Georgia with his third string quarterback?
Yeah, I don't know about all that. Look, here's what I do know. 7 ranked teams lost today. Yikes. 4 of those 7 ranked teams lost to unranked teams. Double yikes. You want to break your skull? Try to come up with the tomorrow's top 25. More on that later. And for those of you who are hanging out live, we absolutely appreciate it. Lots to get to. It was a chaotic day. It was one of those bloody days where a lot of the teams finally, if you had not already shown your flaws, they certainly seem to emerge. I've got some thoughts on a team that maybe did not show as many flaws, though they took some setbacks. We'll get to that more in just a little bit. But I kind of want to just sort of sit in the immediacy of what we just witnessed, if that's cool. You know, like just because while South Carolina was taking down Texas A&M, Clemson was just being the most boneheaded team in the world on the field and on the sideline. I guess, but I'll start with you here. Is Texas A&M fraudulent?
I guess that depends on what is being presented. Like, what is the claim presented, right?
Top 10 team. Ooh, that's good because you got to rank 10 teams and nobody looks good. Yeah. Right.
If you want to tell me Texas A&M is like the 8th best team in the country, on certain Saturdays, I can buy that. If you want to tell me Texas A&M is like the 22nd best team in the country, you know what? On certain Saturdays, I can buy that as well. If you want to tell me like they're not top 25 good, I think that's probably where I would draw the line of like, that seems a little nuts to me. But like they have some nice pieces. They also have some things we've discussed on the show. Like, is Reed really that good? He did throw only 2 passes that's awesome. He came in against LSU. They ran the heck out of the ball, and it's a different beast to go play South Carolina. I don't think they're fraudulent, but they were probably playing or at least ranking at kind of like the upper end of the range that I think it would feel acceptable to have them, right? If they had won tonight and just maybe not look all impressive, like if they got the dub tonight, I think you're like, okay, now we're really getting like, should they really be ranked like?
Well, then they're Tennessee, which like, you know, like I don't know if the game's done yet. I hope, right?
It is done.
Okay, yeah, okay, right. But like that's like Tennessee's going to get out of this. Like we're probably not going to talk a lot about Tennessee. Tennessee was not super impressive, but they won the game.
Yeah,
fair.
I thought South Carolina had just a different gear tonight overall. Like it seemed like the energy that they had and they had more juice than A&M did. I don't know how you quantify that, but occasionally the Gamecocks will get into these night games in maybe October just came late this year, right? And it just feels like they have a different energy. It felt a little bit like that game, 2 years ago when they knocked off Tennessee? They're maybe not quite so one-sided, but I was pretty impressed with South Carolina tonight. Like, nice job. Like, they played to their strengths. They didn't do a lot of dumb stuff. 530 yards of offense. So it wasn't just the defense mauling A&M the whole time. Although they certainly did some of that. And I thought it was interesting. We didn't see Wegman. So read into that what you will.
A&M, the biggest bunch of frauds who've ever been frauds anywhere in the world, getting absolutely punked by South Carolina. No, this is we've talked about Williams-Brice at night. Crazy electric atmosphere. South Carolina came out playing like it was their damn Super Bowl, and they treated it that way, and they played up to that level. Like, offensively, they were fantastic. They averaged 7.6 yards per play. They completely stifled the Texas A&M offense in the second half. I mean, this was a 20-20 game at halftime. It finished 44-20. So, I mean, just an excellent performance from the Gamecocks, and that was the thing we talked about a little bit, like you mentioned, on the big game breakdown. Like, Texas A&M deserved to be ranked in the top 10. Were they the kind of team you could really expect to run the table, considering the problems that they've had at quarterback, the problems that they've had along the offensive line? No. So they went on the road. They were only 3-point favorites for a reason. They lost by 24. I still think they're a decent team, and they're very much still in the thick of things. It's just they're not the kind of squad that you look at and think, oh, yeah, it's incredible that they lost this game. Because it's not. It's completely reasonable that they lost this game.
Yeah, Rocket Sanders has a huge game. You've got they were able to run the football. Did South Carolina have the better quarterback in this game?
At least tonight they did.
Yeah, he was only 13 of 27. Like, the thing with Sellers is it's like he hits the big throws. Like, they just take a bunch of shots. And they hope that they hit a few of them. And if they do, things are going to go great. It's just kind of to keep defenses honest in the run game. And that's really where their bread and butter is. And that's where they really did an excellent job tonight, because Rocket Sanders had 144 yards on the ground. Sellis had 106. Sanders also had 5 catches for 92 yards. He just had a monster game. So I think that, is he the better QB? I don't think either QB is somebody you want dropping back to pass 40 times. But I think that he hit more big plays today than Marcel.
Yeah, I wasn't saying. Yeah, I should say, was he the better QB tonight?
Yes,
I guess was probably the anchor of that, because you had Mike Elko not being confident in short yardage situations in the second half of that game. Yikes! Mm-hmm. You've got a running quarterback who's supposed to present lots of differing looks and be able to give you the opportunity to win those spots. So. Yeah, not great for Texas A&M, but hey, welcome to the party, Texas A&M. You bleed just like everybody else bleeds. Okay, so do you want to stay here, or do we want to go all the way back to noon? Because noon, noon feels like it was 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think like a little more flowers for South Carolina. They're almost certainly going to make a bowl now, right? They have
good point.
They're at 5. They still have games that are winnable at Vandy, host Missouri, host Wofford. And if Clemson plays like tonight and South Carolina plays like tonight, that game, it's on the road, obviously, but that's not entirely unwinnable, I guess. So nice job, South Carolina, going to a bowl game.
Okay. All right. So big game Brom or Clemson, Clemson doing this to themselves?
Some of both.
Low column A, low column B.
I think so. I the one thing I didn't see coming was Louisville's defense stepping up like this. I thought Louisville could probably score on Clemson, but I did not think that Louisville's defense would. Yeah, Clemson put up 450 yards, but it's on 101 plays, which is insane. Like, that's 4.5 per play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's terrible.
2 blocked field goals.
See. Yeah. You get 2 field goals blocked, and you still don't go for 2, even though you're supposed to. Like, that's the one thing that really. Listen, we could talk Louisville in a moment. I just can't get that part out of my head. That Dabo Swinney's getting paid $11.5 million a year, and nobody on that staff has a 2-point conversion chart.
Hey man, he's not going to transfer portal his approach from kicking extra points to kicking field goals. Okay.
Like, you're down.
Were you working on that for a while?
No, I just thought of it live.
That's good. That's good stuff.
Kicking extra points to going for 2, but
you're down 13 in the fourth quarter. Go for 2. Make it a 2-score game, dummy. Like, why are you kicking the extra point? You should have no faith in your kicker to begin with, because you've already had the 2 field goals blocked, and it's just absolute stupidity. Like, there's no excuse for it. So you look at Clemson, they got outplayed and they got severely outcoached. And I think that is really the main takeaway here. Like, listen, I have not been very impressed with Louisville all season. I have been open in my thoughts about it. And if you look at them offensively, like, Tyler Shuck had an okay night. Nobody in that receiver core really did anything special. Like, Isaac Brown had a great night on the ground. Did I say Isaac Ground or Isaac Brown? Either way, he had a great night on the ground.
Isaac Brown had a great night on the ground. And listen, this has been an Isaac Brown podcast for weeks.
Mm-hmm. But it's just, I don't know, man. The defense was fantastic. Isaac Brown had a great game. Louisville was the better football team. And Bud was kind of on it on the lock spot on Thursday and a little bit when we were doing the big game breakdown. Like, Clemson has been winning a whole bunch of games and they've been playing really well, but they haven't been playing anybody noteworthy. And it looked like it tonight, man. It looked like they never seen a good football team in their lives, not since that Georgia game. And they looked as flustered at times as they did in the Georgia game. Shout out Baylor, 37-34 win. Game-winning field goals, time expires.
that's kind of why, like, when I send Mikey our projected playoff, like I haven't seen Clemson do it against anybody decent. Like the teams they beat, these wins are aging like milk. Okay.
All right. No. Let me beat you. I've got the answer. The answer is NC State. Their best win is NC State. NC State is the only team they have beat with a winning record.
Sure. That's fair. Yeah. I mean, two of their three most recent wins were teams who got housed recently by UNC. So
listen,
UNC's wagon, clearly.
Yeah. Sorry, Mac is back. All right,
dude.
Last stand.
Mac's last stand is in full effect. But like that's the thing is when, and we'll get to tomorrow's top 25 a little bit later in the show. But like these teams that are losing then require a reassessment of their profile, and a reassessment of their profile in a lot of these cases reveals a severe shortage. And the metric that I was using is wins against teams with a winning record. And
sure,
by using that metric, Clemson's best win is NC State, a win that happened more than a month ago and against an extremely flawed team.
And they have been burying teams. This is not like a condemnation of Clemson. Okay, Clemson's still a good team. The reason why I thought Louisville had a shot is I just don't see the separation from most teams this year. And it's just like, okay, like, are the players really that different? I don't know. I didn't think it was going to look like reverse Georgia, So Louisville played a good game. They also got incredibly fortunate, obviously, with the field goal stuff. And their ability to run the ball did surprise me, because that offensive line has not been playing very well overall. Right. And I mean, to Tom's point, Isaac Brown, 20 for 151. He had the long one, the 45-yarder, but like, take that out. It's still 19 for over 100 on Clemson. That's still a pretty high rushing success rate. Like, they moved it on the ground when they needed to. And I mean, Shuck was just kind of average, right? 19 of 32 for $156. That's not average. That's terrible, actually. He just didn't throw any picks. So,
yeah. Louisville's defense and special teams winning the day was not on my checklist for how this game was going to go, because I mean, look, what?
3 tackles for loss for Clemson on the night.
Scheme.
Yeah, no doubt.
Some scheme.
That could be some big game Brom stuff. Keep it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that was I was mostly late second quarter and then all of the second half in terms of me being able to like actually get my eyes on Louisville-Clemson, but I was pretty dialed into it, and they just had them on their heels. Yeah. They were not, that defense was not able to get downhill. And look, better execution. You lost this game by 12. You had 2 blocked field goals. If those 2 zeros are 14, I mean, ifs, ands, buts, candies, nuts, and all that stuff. But like this game was there, and Clemson was not good enough. Did y'all see the broadcast showing people walking out like late third quarter?
Mm-hmm. Had to beat traffic. They knew they weren't. There was no reason to believe they were going to come back to win.
Fair.
Absolutely none.
Fair. Bad luck still.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a story a little bit later about another just. Whew, you want to see an Exodus? Gracious.
Oh yeah.
I ain't seen Autzen in the Eastern Time Zone before. But good gravy. All right. Let's go ahead and hit our first break. Coming up on the other side, one of the biggest games of the day, kind of delivered, at least in terms of the dramatics. So let's unpack exactly what happened and also what it means with Ohio State going into Happy Valley and getting the win against Penn State. All that and more next. Back here on the Cover 3 podcast. And yeah, I'm speaking a little selfishly here from the comfy confines of Ypsilanti. Our beloved Eastern Michigan Eagles lost on a failed 2-point conversion.
You're in Ypsilanti?
Yeah.
No, there weren't any hotel rooms available?
I'm thankful for a place to lay my head, Tom. I'm midway between Ann Arbor and Detroit, so I guess that'll help me tomorrow. But man, you had a moment after the pick six where you're like, uh-oh. Will Howard's got a case of the whoopsie daisies.
Mm-hmm.
A record crowd is going absolutely bonkers. This could be bad for the Buckeyes. And the funny thing is, Will Howard kept the whoopsie daisies. He didn't lose them, but he delivered just enough plays, and Penn State failed in so many scoring opportunities, or enough scoring opportunities, that the Buckeyes end up winning this thing 20-13. Tom, again, lots to unpack about the after, how we go with this. James Franklin and his latest beef. Yeah. I roll for those listening at home, of course, from Tom Fornelli. But just in terms of the game itself, what were some of the big pivot points for you in what was a true back and forth kind of heavyweight fight?
If you're a Penn State fan, how in the hell are you supposed to believe you're ever going to beat Ohio State at this point?
Oh my God.
Why should you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the situation. Ohio State did not play well. Defensively, they played well. Offensively, they didn't play that great. You're coming into this game, you're at home, it's early, which, by the way, I didn't like having this game early. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that kind of stuff. But you come into this game, it's at home. You get the field goal, you get a nice drive to open up, but kind of a bad omen is that you have this great 14-play drive to start, and you have to settle for the field goal because you can't finish it. But you get the lead, and then Will Howard throws that pick six, a great play by Zion Tracy. I don't think that was a bad throw by Howard. I think that was just Tracy making a spectacular play, knowing what was coming, figuring out, getting it, and making it. So now you're up 10 points. The crowd's going crazy. Their offensive line is still in shambles. You've got your defense. You're going to be doing all this stuff, and you still lost. You blew the 10-0 lead against a wounded Ohio State team at home. They outscored you 20-3 from that point on. And the defense, for all, it didn't have an incredible game, but overall, Penn State defense played well. Abdul Carter had a couple sacks. They had 6 tackles for loss. They had 3 sacks overall. They held them, they completely took away the running game for the most part. Ohio State had a couple of big runs, like Judkins had the 20-something run. But other than that, they really weren't that effective on the ground. But your offense, you go out in the offseason and you go get Andy Kotelnicki from Kansas, right? Because we need to fix our offense. It's been a problem all year. There were signs for years. There were signs early in the year that things were fixed, but they've been kind of the last couple of weeks. You come into this game, you get 270 yards of offense. All right. You have 3 red zone trips. You end up with 3 points. Yeah. You call that play on 4th and goal where it's Tyler Warren has been your best offensive player all season long. Maybe not Nick Singleton, but I'm saying as far as in the passing game, Tyler Warren is your best player. He's your weapon. You don't get the ball in his hands nearly enough. You only target him 5 times, and he had 3 carries. And then in that 4th down, you don't throw the ball to him. You design a play to go to a guy who's surrounded by 4 defenders. And by the way, you have an offensive lineman going in motion. Andy Kotelnicki talked about in the press conference this week about how his offense is just a vanilla blizzard. It's just got some swirls in it. You didn't need to put those swirls in it. There's no need for that. It reminds me of the Bears last week when they handed off to their backup center on the goal line. That's just a little too cute in a key moment when you're trying to win probably the biggest football game that you've been trying to win in a very long time. So you beat yourself. The offense does absolutely nothing. On the Ohio State side, there was the pick six. There was the Will Howard fumble through the goal line. There were all the reasons for Ohio State to be oh, God, we're going to blow this game. We're going to blow our season. We're going to lose. But they hung in, man. Say what you want about them. They are not – I don't think they're incredible. I don't think this team's going to win a national title. Just based on what I've seen from them, I think they make too many mistakes. But then it's, at the same time, plenty of teams make mistakes this year. But they were like, that was mentally tough to do that in that environment, to have all those mistakes and overcome them and win the game, and for your defense to make the plays that they made when they did to keep, Penn State out of the end zone. Like the interception by Ignatius at the end of the first half was incredible.
Oh, it was amazing.
Dude.
Like, all credit to Ohio State for doing what you have to do. Like, you are the better team. You're not a great team, but you're definitely a better team than Penn State. And I think we've proven it at this point for 8 straight years now. And like I said at the very start, if Penn State can't beat Ohio State today with those turnovers, with the injuries, with the early 10-0 lead, they're never going to beat Ohio State. It's like, there's no reason to think it's going to happen.
I agree with most of that. I will push back on a little bit, though. One, I don't have a problem with the offensive lineman going in motion. Like, they did it against USC. They've done it a couple other times this year in crucial situations, and it did work. Like, I think you got to be who you are. And I think they did try to get the ball to Warren on the 4th down. Ohio State saw it coming and covered it really well. And they also managed to cover the other options, which is kind of where I want to go with this. You had 5 targets to receivers. We talked about this on the CBS Sports Network Big Game Breakdown. Like, would Ohio State be able to play more of the style of defense that Jim Knowles probably prefers to play against Penn State than it did against Oregon, because Oregon's receivers can really make you pay, whereas Penn State's kind of cannot. I mean, they had 5 targets to receivers total, and I know Warren is obviously a great receiving target, and he should be their target leader. But I mean, 5 targets for 50 yards to receivers is just not going to get it done probably. Like, you have to have the ability to attack Ohio State on the outside a little more than they did. I thought Drew Aller was just kind of not great, like missed some stuff.
Well, he was early when they were using him as like that. It felt like Andy Kotelnicki kind of emptied the bag a little bit.
Yeah.
And you just had no offensive touchdowns there for a little while to show for it. Like, that was the thing that was alarming to me. It's like, congratulations, you got all these yards, you had all these great like Drew Aller runs, and everything was looking good early, but still the offense to a certain point in the game had 0 offensive touchdowns.
Just pushing back a little bit though on the offensive lineman. What purpose did he serve on the play? Ohio State wasn't trying to cover him.
That's fair. Yeah,
I mean, he ran and he blocked a guy on a passing play. I mean, and I guess it was an RPO, so he's got to, seal off the edge there in case they hand it off. But it just allowed Ohio State to put an extra guy on Warren, because they didn't have to worry about throwing to the offensive lineman. It's like, okay, if you want to give him the ball, give him the ball.
I think they generally do it because it helps with the run stuff, and they probably thought Ohio State would buy on some of the run fake stuff there. But I was also pretty impressed by Chip Kelly in this game at times. Like, that was a real difficult task he had to scheme up around the offensive line issues that Ohio State was probably going to have. We talked a little bit about, like, 10 minutes ago, how Clemson did not have that many tackles for loss against Louisville. I thought there was some really nice mitigation of the offensive line issues that Ohio State was likely to have by Kelly in this ballgame. And specifically, like, some of the passes to the backside of the backfield I thought were well designed. Some of the crossers. Brandon Ennis coming up big for these guys. I know he didn't lead the team in receiving, but I feel like every time I looked up and on the quad box, it's like, okay, there's Brandon Ennis making another catch. Like, cool. It's good to know he's still around. He's still working and developing. And Howard's not great, but he's not terrible, and he ran hard when they needed him to. There were 2 big runs late in the game. The one to get him down there in the 1st and goal, and the other one to basically put the game away and run the clock out. Ohio State just looks a little bit better than Penn State. And we're probably having a different conversation. Like, I don't think it's a referendum on Penn State necessarily that you sucked in the red zone, man. That's going to happen. Like, 3 trips, 3 points, that's god awful. There's also some variance in that. It sucks, but like, I know, but like, I mean, if they play this game again tomorrow, they're probably scoring more points in the red zone. They may not get the pick 6 though. Ohio State was the better team. They deserved to win. The way it played out, there was some kind of fluky stuff, I guess, there at times. But
hey, listen, and that's fair for when we like adjust our power ratings. But when we talk about this season, the play was the play. The game was the game. Like, that's like, you were going to be defined by your failures of having the ball inside the 5-yard line and like not being able to get touchdowns.
One minor correction, by the way. You called him Chip Kelly. His name is Chipper the Ripper. All right.
Apparently.
I don't know if you heard that during the game, but he's Chipper the Ripper, and he designs plays for Jeremiah Money on the Rise Smith. Okay.
I actually This might surprise you. I did not have the sound on that game.
Our colleague Richard Johnson was with me in Ann Arbor, and he was saying that like both of those, to your point about the scheme, that both of the first half touchdowns were the exact same play, just delivered. Like Chip was just in his bag. He just figured out like the things that were breaking down Tom Allen's defense. And then it was like, okay, so this time we'll go this way, and this time we'll go this way. And that is an encouraging, I would say more encouraging for Ohio State than unsettling for Penn State, but encouraging for Ohio State that your big splashy offensive coordinator hire showed up in a game that only had 33 total points. 14 of them were just schemed wide TF open by your offensive coordinator.
Very TF.
Huh? What'd you say?
I had more notes on this.
I said that's why you pay him.
Yeah. Are you ready to get into like the fallout?
Yeah.
So
will there be fallout?
Listen, fallout is about fan feelings more than administrative action.
I don't think fan feelings changed.
You don't?
No, I think the fans already felt that way. Like the Penn State fans I know, I don't think the results of anything that happened today changed their minds about anything.
You don't think that if Penn State had beat Ohio State 28-20, they wouldn't have.
That would have changed it. But
right.
This result losing, I don't think changes anything.
Look, if they continue, we're not going to have fallout tomorrow, right?
No. I mean,
so if they continue to win and play well, like they have played well for most of the season, then they're going to go, what, 10-2 or 11-1?
Correct.
They're going to make the playoff, which they have not done under James Franklin so far. Obviously, it's a 12-teamer, not a 4-teamer.
And they're going to and they're probably going to host a playoff game.
Yeah, if you host a playoff game and you're Penn State, zip it. All right. To me, like that's kind of the ceiling of that program, unless they show me some reason to believe otherwise. Like they're not out there with the top 10 NIL budget, I don't think. Right? Like they're not. They don't have a great recruiting base there. They got great fans, great tradition. I think they develop players well. If they find a way to host a playoff game, I don't want to hear a damn thing. You lost to Ohio State. You ain't Ohio State, man. I never expect Penn State to beat Ohio State. Why should I? Just because they're due for some reason? Or did I miss that Ohio State doesn't have better players than them now? I don't want to hear it. It's cool, but I get it because it's fandom, right? You want to believe that there's more possible, and there probably is in a given year. But like Chip said, maybe this should have been the year, and it wasn't.
So
I will say, like, you look at the rest of their schedule, they get Washington next week, then they're at Purdue, whatever. But then they're at Minnesota. Like, they might lose another game or two.
They could lose to Minnesota.
Yeah, they could lose to Washington.
They could lose to Washington. I don't think
probably
they
not,
will, but they
at
could.
home.
Yeah,
but they could.
Yeah. So we're not going to make anything out of James Franklin getting chesty with fans.
Oh, we can talk about that. I'm just talking about like the expectations fallout, kind of. I thought you meant like fans are going to want him fired. It's like
No,
they've already wanted him fired.
No, because James Franklin getting chesty with the fans is a thing. It is an item. It is something that has been clipped, aggregated, posted. It is part of the headline stack. It is part of the overall analysis. The deep thoughts you get from Tom Fornelli, but the be a real man, tell me your name, to fans that are talking trash to you as you're trying to walk off the field is some raw behavior from the Penn State head coach. And we'll see if he addresses it,
I get it. Like, it's a huge game. You lost. You're pissed off. I'm not going to blame James Franklin for being pissed off. But you got to just ignore it. I know it's probably a lot more difficult, but you got to just ignore it. Like, just walk through the tunnel, get to the locker room. There's no need for that. And again, like you said, this isn't the first time it's happened. So just, I don't know, man. Show, if you want your players to be disciplined, show some yourself.
If there's it's because that is a thing that we have the larger conversation about fans. Because my position on this is that the Penn State administration loves 10 wins. The Penn State administration loves record crowds. The Penn State administration loves the 12-team playoff and the opportunity that provides Penn State to continually, with this program and the consistency that James Franklin has created, have a shot at a national championship in the way that they did not have a shot in the 14 playoff format. Because as we've said so many times, in the 10 years of the 14 playoff, we project that if it had been a 12-team playoff, Penn State would have 6 playoff appearances. So there is a high floor for the James Franklin Penn State program. But the shortcomings of 8 straight losses to Ohio State and the inability to win the Big Ten, going all the way back to that 2016 season, have started to pile up and have started to create a little bit of fan frustration. Is that fair? I don't know. I'm not going to tell fans how to feel. That's different fan bases have different expectations. But the administration is totally cool with this. But one last thing, we just saw a head coach in a revenue sport leave what is widely viewed as one of the best jobs in the entire sport, not because the administration was unhappy, but because the fans just got sick of him. And he had won a national championship, and he was continually one of the best in his conference. And he left. And I just wonder if we've got a John Calipari situation starting to bubble up with James Franklin.
That's interesting. The one thing I would say about this before you do kind of fundraise off the bigger goals, though, right? Not a lot of people are fired up about donating to go 10-2 every year, right? Like you fundraise booster dollars and NIL dollars by selling hope. Even if you don't truly believe it yourself, like it doesn't really matter if James Franklin really thinks Penn State can win a national title, right? They're going to fundraise off it, and he's going to coach with that goal in mind. And maybe they go 10-2 or 11-1 along the way. You can't. I think that's the reason you can't do this too, right? Like that's what I wanted to add. Sorry.
So you're just kind of saying like we're going to hear his name floated for the Florida job, and if he gets offered the job, you're saying maybe he takes it.
That if Lincoln Riley runs off to the NFL and late in the cycle,
why is the NFL hiring Lincoln Riley at this point, though?
I don't know.
They've already got all the coaches who know how to do that.
Didn't Kingsbury get hired? And
yeah, but that was
the best thing he did.
That was before the NFL really knew that offense. I feel like they know it now. Like I feel like the NFL has better offenses than what Lincoln's running.
Fair, but I don't know if it's going to happen this cycle. I don't want to allege that we're like on the immediate edge of that, because obviously the Cal situation was multiple seasons over, and like the most recent of the many early NCAA tournament exits was kind of what like really started to have that thing catch fire. So, and I don't know if James Franklin has a chicken empire that he can tap into to be able to kickstart his next job opportunity. So they're like, I don't want to draw a direct correlation, but I do think that was one of those things. Like if you were to just write it down that the sitting head coach of Kentucky who won a national championship in men's basketball was going to leave that program, like why? When all of the wins and losses had been there in NCAA tournament appearances and high finishes in the conference.
Wasn't Calipari in danger of getting fired soon?
I don't think he was actually in danger of like for real getting fired.
I don't think Franklin's in any real danger. I feel like if
right.
he leaves,
I agree.
Only just because he wants to start over somewhere. Like he's looking for a fresh start.
Right. James Franklin for Florida State.
That's not. I mean,
I don't think they're going to make a move there.
I don't think
I'd be pretty shocked.
That'd be a lot of money right now.
All right. Okay. So I mean, again, we've got like a whole slate of upsets of analysis to get to. Top 25 coming up a little bit later. Any other Ohio State Penn State thoughts?
Ohio State better hope Indiana loses.
All right. buddy.
Dude.
Because they're not getting in if it doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, obviously, Ohio State has a say if Indiana loses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. All right. Well, let's find out if Ohio State can beat Indiana.
Down 10-0. Oh, man, here's where Indiana comes. Surprise! No, sir. This is not where it comes crashing down because Coach Sig smokes it through the filter. 47 unanswered points. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 47 unanswered points.
Wagon, man.
15 tackles for loss, 7 sacks.
Mm-hmm. And they couldn't run the ball for crap, and they still won by 37 points.
Negative 24 yards rushing for Michigan State. Now, I know that there's some sack yards in there, obviously.
But even if you take out the sack yardage, Michigan State had 37 yards.
Yeah.
I'm telling
y'all.
y'all.
1.5 a carry.
D-line's playing really well.
Well, dude, the linebackers too. I mean, it's just like this Indiana defense doesn't like jump off when you're like starting to like line them all up, but then you just like watch them play and they're well coached. They have an edge. They don't make mistakes. They play aggressive, like third downs. They're getting after it.
They think they're Superman. They have no reason not to.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
9-0. It's like this has gone from like a bit to just like true like amazement and celebration. Just one of the more remarkable first-year head coaching jobs at the power conference level that I can remember in recent memory.
Kurt Signetti for Penn State.
I think it's official, right? We've made it. It's been announced. Our game.
Oh yeah, Michigan and Indiana.
Oh yeah, baby, let's go. Michigan. It's gonna have to lick its wounds. It's gonna have to head to the house that Kirk Signetti fixed the bleacher seats on, Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, and that'll be our big time on CBS game of the week next week, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. The big spotlight on the Hoosiers trying to improve to 10-0 against the reigning national champs.
It's a pretty light week in the Big Ten next week. I don't know if you saw the big noon Saturday game. It's Ohio State and Purdue. I'm hoping that like Fox can get Beth Mowins to fill in for Gus just to give that like the real noon start kind of feel to an Ohio State Purdue game.
Will this be the first time we don't do big game breakdown for a big noon game?
I mean,
listen,
probably right.
What's the spread going to be on that? 45?
I've gotten word from the bosses that we are very excited about. We are very excited
the best Big Ten game
about our
Indiana
Michigan game,
yeah,
and I've got
we
no
have
comments.
The best game by far.
Okay. Yeah. Because this wagon, all right, we are going to spend a lot of time talking about that wagon this week. Okay, we're going to talk about every part of that wagon, with the axles, the wheels, the way that it steers. Okay, which is just straight ahead. It doesn't turn. It just goes to win in town.
Fox is going to have like so many shots of the band in that game. By the way, just banned me. Yeah, that was. Are we talking Michigan now too? In Oregon?
Yeah.
Or do you want to stay more Indiana?
No, I mean if you've got anything else on like, because Indiana was going on at the same time as Oregon, Michigan. So I'm mostly score tracking that game. So I don't have like a ton of I got a little bit of like pop it up on the stream. Like I did first half totally on the field on the sideline, then like go warm up and eat, like catch up, watch a little bit, and then go back down for the fourth quarter. Yeah.
If you want. Have you ever seen a boxing match where the one fighter is so much better than the other that he just stands there and he points at his chin and he says, go ahead, hit me as hard as you can. And then the guy does hit him as hard as he can and he takes a 10-0 lead. And then the big guy actually throws a punch back. That's how the Indiana-Michigan State
it's like he wanted to taste the blood and lick
Uh-huh.
it and then just start wailing on him like this.
Indiana was like, we are tired of this. We've led every single snap we've played, stat. Just come on, hit me. Just so we know what it feels like.
Those sick sons of Actually, if there's any football team that would be into masochist behavior, it does seem like it would be Kurt Signetti's Hoosiers.
Mm-hmm. Just cutting themselves.
Yeah, choke me. All right, let's talk about the best team in the daggum country.
So up until the very end of the game, Michigan had one tackle for loss against Oregon. We talked on Big Game Breakdown on Tuesdays on CBS Sports Network this week, actually at noon. So check us out. How that had to be the way for Michigan to win the ball game. And Oregon could not let them destroy them up front. This would be a good test for the kind of reshuffled Oregon offensive line, maybe in a way that Ohio State wasn't. They handled it easily. They ran the ball all over Michigan too. Like every time you look up, it's like, oh, wow, that's another chunk run for Michigan. So, for Oregon. So I was pretty impressed with that. They also really limited Michigan's big plays, which is not that hard to do. But I think if you're watching it, like the biggest play Michigan had, I'm pretty sure was that flea flicker.
Right.
Other than that, they had like zero. So pretty dominant win. I mean, 470 to 270 total yards, but it never really felt like Michigan had any chance to win the game. It for a little while, I felt like they might have a chance to cover the game, but not win it.
Yeah, that was, I mean, Michigan got the touchdown early because of the fumbled kickoff. It gave them great field position. And then you mentioned that flea flicker. That was their biggest play of the game, and they still only got a field goal out of that. So it was like that's what Michigan needed just to get 10 points on the board in the first half to kind of make this game feel close. But Oregon goes right down the field, gets the touchdown before halftime, just make sure, because it's like they've done all season in the Big Ten outside the Ohio State game. It's just make sure before halftime the other team knows it's done. Like, and that's the kind of what they're trying to do, and that's what they did in this game. Third quarter, Michigan did score a touchdown, cut it down a little bit, but then Oregon just put its foot right back on the gas. And I think that, like, if you're Oregon, there's really no major takeaway to take from this. You looked like Oregon. You looked like the team that we've seen the last, month and a half at this point. For Michigan, oddly enough, like, they lost. But if you're a Michigan fan, based on what you've seen this year, losing to Oregon by 21, you're probably like, hey, not too bad. Not too bad. Because, like, there is, if you watched them last week against Michigan State and you watch them today, offensively, they are kind of figuring things out. Like, Davis Warren is playing better. Alex Orji is playing better in his limited snaps. They're accomplishing things. They're still not good. They still don't have any receivers to speak of at all. But the fact that Oregon knows that, and they were still able to get the ball to Colston Loveland 7 times,
a million times yards for all of their offensive yards.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, we're kind of figuring out how to do it. We're just not good. So that's the problem they have to deal with.
The number one, Tez Johnson going down could be significant.
Yeah.
He goes down. He immediately goes to the injury tent, immediately goes back into the locker room, comes back out in street clothes, goes back into the locker room. It's, like to
if we want to speculate, if it's a collarbone injury,
right? If it's
4 to
like
6 weeks, next 3 games are Maryland, Wisconsin, Washington.
Dylan Gabriel said after the game, he was asked about Tez a lot. He said, like, my heart breaks for him. He's such a leader, this, that, or the other. Compared it to when Terrence Ferguson got hurt. And he said, and, Ferg came back, and I'll look forward to when Tez does too. It's like there seems to be within that team a sense, like, no, I mean, Dane Lanning's official word, we won't know, no updates. Team, same thing, no updates. But I think that there's a sense like, yes, like he's not going to be back next week. But the hope is that he's going to be back. And look, they're thinking about a 16-game season. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of football that's left to play for that team. And to your point about Michigan, they trick plays and gimmicky plays is kind of like their whole bag. But Oregon was also prepared for it. And so when they got the ball down in scoring position where they could have cut it to 7 in the second half, when it was 14. And to that point, I think that they had held Oregon to 68 yards of offense in the second half.
Yeah, they held it for a while early.
The third quarter, Michigan's defense was like keeping the Ducks in check. And so encouraging, to your point, for Michigan, but then they fail and Oregon marches all the way down, bleeds a ton of clock, run, punch it in for a touchdown. And then to hear Dan Lanning talk about the game plan, where to the tackles for loss point, they were very concerned about Mason Graham. And like after the game on the field, like all of Oregon's players going up to 55, like, hey, you're a bad man. Hey, you're a bad man. Like all like, doing like the like pictures and stuff. And they had looked at him on tape and they'd be like, this guy can't beat us. So it was a two-step process. Number one, we work the perimeter and we work everything away from the interior of Michigan's defensive line and we wear them down. And then in the second half and in short yardage, we run right at them. And that was exactly what they did. They limited Michigan's defensive line to be able to like really disrupt things. And like, they still got a little bit of a push on Gabriel, but Gabriel did a great job of being able to escape, keep his eyes down the field and like come up with some big throws. So I don't know. Like you got some pushback, Tom?
Just gonna say the one time Graham hit Gabriel, he picked him up. So is he a bad man or a nice guy?
Okay, fair.
It's like, come on, Mace. Somebody like he knocks him down and he picks him up and they pat each other on the ass. I'm like, come on, you're not supposed to help the quarterback up.
There was a lot of healthy respect and competition between those two squads out there.
Like, he probably called him sir because he's so old.
Dylan Gabriel's on one, man. He's playing well.
Taking care of the ball, 10 and 15 on third down. Doing a nice job. Both Michigan corners were out, by the way, right?
Yeah, they were missing Will Johnson and Jair Hill.
A lot of talk.
Alt lines.
A lot of talk about Trayshawn Holden. Obviously, Tez goes down. Trayshawn has a big game, and they're doing a lot of narrative building, as you might expect teams like that to do, circling back to the spitting, maturity, growth, yada yada yada. That is whatever it is, but in a season where so many teams have bled and have flaws, Oregon's the most complete team in the country, in my opinion.
They have been to this point for sure. They haven't really shown their weakness. Yeah. But everybody will show it eventually.
So Maryland off. Wait, was it? We got one more. It's Maryland off Washington.
Maryland,
Wisconsin off Washington.
Yeah, they get the bye between Wisconsin and Washington.
Yeah.
I don't know if either of those three teams could really show it. If we see Oregon's flaw, it won't be before Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I think I agree.
They also had so as the Michigan fans left, the Oregon fans who had been relegated to the upper rows kept drifting down to the point that like after the game was over, by the one tunnel in that daggum stadium, you know who was all around that tunnel?
Oregon fans.
Green. It was a good day to be an Oregon Duck for sure. All right. Let's hit a break, then we'll get back into picking some of this apart. Coming up on the other side, talking about teams showing some flaws. Are we what do we do with Georgia? All that and more next.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
But if DJ Lagway plays the whole game, you think Florida wins?
I probably not, but I think they would have made him sweat a lot more. I mean, when the third stringer, because Mertz is obviously out when he came in, at one point he was like 4 of 16 for like 60 yards or something. It's like, okay, that's probably not going to get it done.
With a pick that wasn't a pick six, but led to like a one play, like 7 yard. Yeah.
I mean, at a certain point, I'm a little concerned that Carson Beck is throwing like 2 or 3 interceptions per game. Like, What are now? I know that look, Bobo's a step down from the OC they had, right? The guy who went to Ravens, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Todd Monken.
But I don't think
Jeff's cousin, not his brother. I've made that mistake on this podcast a billion times.
You idiot.
Cousin. I know.
I don't think
know
family trees, Bobo, right? Like it's not all on Bobo. Like some of that does seem to be on Beck, and he's not playing super well. Like you would think that he would be one of the strengths of this team. And I don't think he's actually playing better than he was last year. Now the schedule is a little bit harder, I think, in some cases than it was last year. Like Georgia had a real cakewalk schedule SEC wise last year, but he's not seeing it clearly. They also have some weird stuff where they're just not on the same page. Like how many times now have we seen Georgia miscommunicate that now screen? Like they screwed it up against Bama. Bama picked it, right? And a little bit different version today. It was dropped. It felt like the back and the receiver just wasn't on the same page. And I know they've had two guys dismissed or just not around anymore. Whatever the status is. Yeah, maybe they were both booted. I don't want to mischaracterize there, but so maybe that's hurting them. But I just feel like they're not getting great quarterback play right now, and yet they still. What do they double up UF's yardage? At one point, it was like pretty close to that. It was like this is kind of wild. So if you're a really good team watching Georgia, you're like, oh, they're beatable on that side of the ball. But then what happens if the Georgia that we saw going to Austin, Texas shows up and they absolutely just destroy your offensive line? Like, that is also still in there. So Beck's proclivity to throw picks, we've seen it a bunch now. Georgia's defense, though, also probably pretty damn good when they want to be or when they have it all together. Like their A game on defense is probably better than anybody else's, but that didn't even seem like they had it today, right? It just felt kind of, I don't know, slow motion at times.
Yeah, that was the wild thing to me about this game is how just kind of ordinary the Georgia defense looked.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was about. I didn't feel like they tried to. I think they just tried. They were trying to be vanilla. Like I don't know if they're trying to keep things off tape or whatever the hell they were trying to do, but they didn't really look. They didn't look anything like the defense that we saw a couple weeks ago, both in performance and both in the way that they were playing, from what I could see on TV, which is usually not much. But just, I don't know, man. Like, I think if you look at, like, you break down the success rate and all that kind of stuff, you're going to find out Georgia probably won this game by a lot more than it won the game by. But Carson Beck is a serious issue right now because he's just throwing. He's not even really looking at this point. He's just deciding this is where I'm going to throw. Like when he gets pressured, he's just deciding, I'm chucking it. And he's chucking it into like linebackers' arms repeatedly. And it's a serious situation to where when you're playing Florida and they lose their starter and they're down to their third string quarterback, you can overcome it. But will you be able to overcome it in bigger games? If you get to Atlanta, you won't be able to overcome it. Will you play Ole Miss on the road next week? Will you be able to overcome it? Probably not. Tennessee, maybe. But UMass and Georgia Tech, sure. But like, if he doesn't get his act together quickly, they're going to lose another game.
Yeah, maybe not regular season, but
look, Ole Miss.
No, it's possible.
It's in Oxford, so I give him a shot if he turns it over 3 times.
They will not win out if Beck keeps playing like this.
Mm-hmm. Ole Miss got a freaking vitamin B injection to the ass of confidence. Like,
hooked up with that IV.
Yeah, 515 yards and 6 touchdowns for Dart, and like you go out there and just spank Arkansas in their house. I mean, listen. We didn't discuss it, but noon kickoff. I guess if the dads went hunting instead of going to the game, check your Arkansas Gaming Commission calendar. But like, I just think like that was the best Ole Miss performance since non-conference play. And so again, just totally doing the vibes meter here. Georgia shaky, escapes with win. Ole Miss goes on road and like finally gets to feel what it's like to be dominant again. Like I'm not putting it past next week as being a spot where Georgia takes another loss.
I agree with that. Also in this game, I will say, I think it's important to point out Taylor Green got hurt, came back in, and they went 3 and out like 3 times in a row. And it was clear he probably wasn't right. And then they went to Malachi Singleton, who's just not a guy who's going to be able to play right now at this level. Jackson didn't play, the stud running back for Arkansas. So Ole Miss kind of has this tendency to snowball teams, right? If
they don't. But
they're
they
like a
have
momentum
it.
team. No, I'm saying like when they have it rolling, they roll it up big. I don't know that Ole Miss is great at like punch counter punch, And in this situation, the offense started clicking early. Arkansas's quarterback gets hurt, and he's probably their best player when he's right. And to Ole Miss's credit, they did not allow them to do what Arkansas did to Tennessee, which was come back and beat them even when Green got hurt in that game. So you got to get a lot of credit.
In SEC play, Ole Miss has had a lot of yards that are empty calories. Ole Miss has not always been able to convert and like make the scoreboard reflect the success that they've had on a down-to-down basis.
Jordan Watkins bankrupted the dentist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watkins, and it wasn't just all super wide open stuff. Like he was open, but first of all, he got himself open. Second of all, some of these were really good catches. Just like guys draped on him, and he actually caught the ball. Like that was. They kind of need somebody because it's probably not going to be Juice Wells to step up. If it's going to be Watkins, that's an important development for this Ole Miss team. Because what's his name didn't play, right?
They didn't.
Trey Harris did not play.
Harris, yeah.
I just feel like, we know our helmet stack for sure, Jackson Dart and Jordan Watkins. So Chip, make that a note for Monday's show. But
noted.
I feel like Ole Miss needed this game. It was just they'd been so kind of.
They didn't do it in SEC play once.
Yeah, they've been so ordinary on offense.
I was going through. I was like, okay, when's the last time that they like really kicked someone's ass? It was September.
Yeah, and with Georgia coming next week, I just feel like this was a good confidence game for them to get this because Arkansas has been playing pretty well. And Bud, you mentioned a lot of reasons why things didn't go right for them today, but still, if you're Ole Miss, you're on the road, early start, you put up 63 points on somebody, you're going to feel pretty damn good about it when you're done. And you're missing your best player or your best receiver, and you still do it.
I would not put it past Georgia to also like
can't run the ball.
Yeah, I would not put it past Georgia to go out there and go beat Ole Miss and Oxford, and then we flip this all again because everybody bleeds and everybody beats everybody except for Oregon.
As long as Carson Beck doesn't throw 15 interceptions,
he could.
He's got it in him. I believe in him.
I mean, that game was tied 20-20 with the third string quarterback in the game.
Ugh. I mean, if they had Stetson Bennett, is Georgia undefeated and just completely steamrolling people?
Is it Stetson and Bobo, or is it Stetson and
Monken?
I don't know. I'm just
flowers. All right, so Stetson's first title was with Monken, second was with Bobo. Is that right? Or both titles with Monken?
I don't know my timeline.
The last one was when they crushed TCU.
Right.
That was Monken, right?
I'm pretty sure that was Monken too, because it was Kirby Smart was talking about, Kirby Smart was talking about Todd Monken and what he had done, the work he had done with Stetson Bennett. And he was talking about how when Stetson Bennett first had to start making play calls, it sounded like he had marbles in his mouth. Because like Todd Monken's pro style guy, right? You're like gonna have like, triple 77, everybody, triple Z's, whatever, like upside down zippers fly. And
the hell play was that? I don't on the board for me, Chip.
I don't think Bobo sucks, to be clear. I do think they're just not as creative at getting guys WTFO as they were with Monken. I thought Monken schemed stuff better. You're not going to have like an absolute king offensive coordinator every single year. They're going to get plucked away at times. And I think in this case they did.
I also think not having Bowers and McConkey have hurt too.
Yeah, that could hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think the leadership on this team is what Georgia had prior? Because I don't think it is.
That was unfair to answer so quickly, but we'll see.
Yeah.
That's yet to be determined on that one for sure. All right, but Bud, where do you want to go next? Oh, let's go to the big. You want to open up Big 12 corner?
Let's do Big 12, man.
All right, cool.
It's not a big deal if you give up like one of those wide open touchdowns at Texas Tech, if it's going to be like a 50-45 type game. It's a pretty big deal if it's a rain game and it's just a total slog and you blow a coverage early. Like that kind of came back to beat them. or to bite them, really. Texas Tech made some really awesome catches in this game. They converted their opportunities better. Iowa State just couldn't get it going. Beck wasn't really himself. Higgins played a big game for Iowa State. I watched this thing in full, and just none of these Big 12 teams look all that different from each other.
Oh, that's interesting. Tom,
are
you surprised? I thought
no.
Actually, I will say this: when Colorado's defense is playing well and Shador's playing like top level Shador, they actually do look different than everybody else. Right? Seriously. But for the most part, they're all kind of the same.
Because Kansas State
in different ways.
Kansas State took a second conference loss today.
They did.
And I was trying to count Colorado's conference losses, and I can't get past one. Huh.
It's going to be interesting.
That's really interesting.
Like, how many of these teams this conference do you think are like actually among like the best 15 teams in the country?
None.
0. Right. I totally agree. Yeah. It feels like a really, really, really good G5 league to me, talent-wise. And that's a great recipe for upsets every week. Except BYU doesn't seem to, get upset at all.
But they will.
Yeah.
Because it's the Big
I don't think they will,
12.
Tom. I think BYU is going totally undefeated.
It comes for them all.
Yeah.
We'll probably lose to Utah coming off a bye because nobody's going to see it coming. Utah's dead. Their season's over. Their quarterback died months ago. Everybody's leaving. Their OC left. They've got no shot to win. Utah 31-4. That's going to be the final score.
Yeah, that probably is going to happen. So Zion Chris was 11 for 11 for Houston.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the one, like the 6-yard touchdown drive they had. The one short field kind of got them back in this game, and Houston wasn't going on 3 real touchdown drives.
No.
So,
and that game was a mess because
Dude.
it was like sheets of rain were falling, and it was windy as hell. Just an absolute messy football game. But Houston had the game. I mean, you would think that in that kind of situation, Kansas State's kind of built for it, but they could not run the ball. Shout out to Houston's defense. They completely shut DJ Giddens down. Like, DJ Giddens has not been stopped by anybody this year. Houston took him out of the football game.
who is the second best? If we agree that Shador is the best quarterback in the Big 12, and I think he is, Sawyer Robertson's the second best, right?
He's got an argument.
He's playing really well, man.
He is playing well.
Like,
are we talking about?
When I included him in the QB power rankings, I got yelled at by a lot of people.
He made the top 10?
Yeah.
He's been balling for like 5
2
weeks in a row.
Yeah.
In the country?
Do you not understand how the power rankings work, Chip?
I mean, just asking for clarification.
First of all, if you lose, you can't be ranked. And
Okay.
second of all, they're based on your juice, man. They're vibes. They're vibes-based rankings.
I understand. I am supportive of that as a method of rankings, 100%.
I'm actually kind of hurt because you know what I found out, Bud? Chip doesn't read my work. That's what I just found out right now. It's a big shot. Don't have time to read your stuff. I got things to do.
I read big time.
Don't read the power rankings, though, do you?
Because the graphic is so good. I'm like, man, like our graphics team is too good. Like, look at this graphic. This is great. I'm like, okay. And you know what? I look at the graphic, like, which ones am I going to text Tom? You're wrong about this.
TLDR.
I even see the reasoning. I'm like, this is bullshit, bro.
All right. I did not get any eyes on Baylor winning as we mentioned, it happened. It finished right as we got started. So I guess with your Sawyer Robertson, if you've got other thoughts there, let's definitely get them in here.
Up. So it's 4th and 9 from where? Like the plus 43, I think, for Baylor with 13 seconds left, maybe, but enough time to where if they don't get it, in theory, TCU could throw a pass, get a timeout, or spike the ball and kick a winning field goal. Because otherwise the game was going to go to overtime. Baylor goes for it. Robertson kind of slides in the pocket a little bit, steps up, throws an absolute strike for 13 or 14 yards. Baylor walk-off field goal. Baylor wins. Baylor's going to go to the bowl. And at this point,
yep,
I don't think Rand is getting fired.
No.
Correct. I'm there. I'm there too. We talked.
Hey,
look,
the wrong QB.
What'd you say?
Mississippi State keep the wrong QB. Sawyer Robertson left a couple of years ago. Came to Baylor.
Yeah, it's possible, actually.
Probably wish he was still there right now.
We can't play the couple years ago game. I mean, it's way more like
I can play any damn game I want.
all right, fine.
Maybe if you read my work, I would respect your opinion of what games I'm allowed to play, but you don't, so I won't.
All right. Speaking of Big 12, Arizona State is going bowling, dude. That's pretty cool. Like, given the situation that they took over there. Can you name the 15 players in the last 30 years who have gone 150 rush, 100 receiving?
Ooh.
Cam Scatterbo, 15.
That's
times.
one. Yeah.
McCaffrey.
Probably McCaffrey. I was thinking probably either Sproles or who was the other guy who just played for Kansas State like 2 years ago?
Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, I got to think Deuce Vaughn had a 150, 100 game.
Maybe not. I mean,
I think Zeke might have had one.
Yeah. Just as the offense was like rolling, putting up some numbers on bad.
They didn't
Big
throw the
Ten
ball
teams.
to Fournette enough, really, so probably not.
No, definitely not.
Trying to think like the guys that went top of the draft.
No, that's not where that. No.
Barkley might have had one.
Because Scatterbo's not going to be top of the draft. The guys who have 150, 100 are guys that are like not going to get drafted.
D'Anthony Thomas.
Vols fan says Alvin Kamara had 150 and 150 against A&M.
I believe
I can see that.
Yeah.
Tavon Austin, okay. Jameer Gibbs. These are your guesses.
Todd Gurley.
We got a good chat.
Yes.
Shout out Tailgate. They're on it. Najee Harris, did he have?
Jonathan
Well,
Taylor, I don't think he was a pass catcher.
Wait, in the national title, they threw him the one wheel route, right? But did he have 100 receiving?
He might have. I don't think so, though. I feel like we would remember that if he did it in a title game.
This is a hard pull right here. Kylan Hill against LSU in 2000.
Shout out Jackson Hill or Jackson King.
That's a hell of a pull. If that's good. Steve Slayton. Okay, sorry for derailing the show. I saw that stat.
Honestly, it's 12:42 a.m.
It's about to be 11.
People could just make names up, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, for sure, I remember that." Go ahead, make one up. See if I figure it out.
What other Big 12 do we have from
All right. I don't know about what other Big 12, but if we're going to talk about Arizona State going bowling, if we're going to talk about Baylor going bowling, I was going to ask, is Nebraska going to make a bowl?
That is an awful loss.
That is a horrendous loss. And somebody reached out to me to at least last weekend or either last weekend or the weekend before. I was like, I don't know if I consider this part of the whole one score loss situation, but I don't know, man. Nebraska's got some. Nebraska got some problems. Yeah, he left with a back injury.
That wasn't really a one-score loss.
Right.
That was a backdoor one-score loss.
Right.
I don't know what the numbers are on Nebraska's backdoor one-score losses, what their record is in those games. But I mean, you look at the situation UCLA has been in this year. They have not been a good team. They've played pretty awful a lot of times. For them to come on the road into your stadium and then just kind of beat your ass, like you made it, you had some cosmetic points towards the end to make it look better than it was. Like, that team's in free fall. They were 5-1. They're 5-4 now. And
USC, Wisconsin, Iowa.
Yeah. I mean, is USC in Lincoln?
No, it's in LA.
Oh, man. I think they win at least one of the three.
Yeah.
And pull it out by the skin of their teeth. But the fact that they're in this position, like, we're going to look back, every year you look back at games, you're like, man, what the hell happened there? We're going to look at that Nebraska win over Colorado at the end of the season and be like, man, what the hell happened there? Like, what did Colorado did everybody have the flu?
Some of the most misleading games of the year could be a good, end of year recap, end of year segment. Which of these September results, lied the most? Because that's going to be up there.
But, I mean, they're just, I don't know. Rayola's not looking good at all. They're not looking good really anywhere. They're just, it's a really bad loss for Matt Rule, I think.
They're definitely banged up, for sure. And I think that's a hard game to get up to go play after the Ohio State game. But that's hard. I think they'll beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin, to me, every game that they play against somebody with a pulse, they look like
outmatched.
Yeah, those wins they ran off look total fool's gold now.
Yeah, we were watching that at dinner. Like,
That
well,
what'd you have?
I had a buffalo chicken sandwich and sweet potato fries. I went healthy at the stadium with a salad and grilled chicken, so I didn't mind going a little beige with my food. Greens while I'm in the stadium working, and then treat myself with some beige food after.
How's the Michigan press box food?
There were healthy options. I'm used to this SEC ACC press
Did you get
boxes
at all?
Dog.
Kind of a library atmosphere.
The quietest press box I have
Respectful.
ever been a part of.
People are studying.
Respectful.
Like, I mean,
it's just old men reading World War II books. They're not there to cover the game. They're just there reading books. It's all.
The Davis Library at Chapel Hill was like louder than the Wilson Library in Chapel Hill was louder than
those study sessions for those fake classes can get kind of rowdy though, Chip.
Well, don't go into the stacks on the 7th floor if you know what I'm saying. How
about my guy Sullivan? 70% completions for Iowa.
New era, baby.
We're not going to discuss they only threw the ball 10 times, but 70% completions, guys.
That's the 4th time they've scored 40 points in a game.
9.3 per attempt.
I mean, they're kicking ass.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. I mean, I think drive to 325 is dead.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool. Like I'm not saying that joyfully, but I just think that like us making fun of Iowa's inability
and hitting it before the end of the regular season.
Have they hit it? They're close, right?
No, but like they could hit it. If they do, we need to have like a celebration and then retire it.
Yeah, I agree.
They are currently at 277 points on the year, but like that Michigan State loss might keep them out of the Big Ten championship game.
Yes, I'm very aware of this. Unfortunately, this is annoying to me.
Because you want Iowa in the Big Ten championship game?
I do. Yes. For personal financial reasons, yes.
Okay.
This version of Iowa putting 40 burgers up every week? Hell yes, we want them in Indianapolis.
No.
The only team that can give Oregon even a threat.
No, we want Ducks Bucks Part 2.
I need to watch Ohio State lose.
You want Ducks Bucks on turf.
On America's most watched network, the Network of Stars, on December 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We want Ducks Bucks Part 2. It was a 1-point game in Autzen. Let's throw it on a neutral field and let's see who ends up getting the bye.
You're worried about ratings. I want a team that can actually score with Oregon. Give me Iowa.
Wait. 54 for 329 rushing. And the long rush for Iowa was 30 yards. That's a brutalizing. I mean,
it's methodical.
54 for 329, and there's like no like huge explosive rush in that. I mean,
no doubt.
Johnson 24 for $135. That's like and a long of 16. That's like an NFL line. You know.
An NFL back.
Dude.
I'm telling you right now, Caleb Johnson is going to end up with like the 49ers or somebody who runs a Shanahan offense, and he's going to be an all-pro. And then he'll second contract, and they'll move him on somewhere else. But for those 4 years, he's going to be incredible.
Fantasy owners, take note for future reference. All right, we still need a third break, right? And we still need all right. Coming up on the other side, we got to take a look at the changes we're projecting to the upcoming AP Top 25 poll, plus much more from the notebook from Saturday. Next. Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, where on Saturday nights we like to take a look at what we're going to see when the AP Top 25 poll adjusts on Sunday. And the reason why it's interesting this week is because we are about to enter a dog wags the tail, tail wags the dog relationship between Sundays and Tuesdays, between the AP Top 25 poll and the College Football Playoff Selection Committee rankings, because clearly the biggest news of Tuesday night is going to be the life-changing announcement of who holds what position in the college football playoff selection committee rankings. The first rankings being the most important of all of the rankings.
I'm dying to see who's ranked 18th. Absolutely dying.
I mean, the outrage that's coming. Bubble watch this, bracketology that. Prepare yourselves. We've been waiting all season for this. So the reason why it's interesting is because there's going to be some tough decisions when you've got a week where 7 ranked teams lose, where teams like Iowa State and Kansas State that have been sort of floating up, Iowa State being undefeated, Kansas State having just 1 loss, when they go in and they take defeats. When you've got a squad like Clemson, which, as we mentioned earlier, had just been beating up on teams, but when starting to be judged as a 2-loss team, what do they have to put on the table? They've got wins against NC State. They've got wins against Wake Forest, Virginia. Not a whole lot that they can really speak of in terms of being able to throw something against an LSU. Like I just grabbed like a random 2-loss team that might have a better profile than the Tigers. So do you think that the Clemson Tigers will be ranked in the new AP Top 25 poll?
Yes.
I do too.
Yeah. If Missouri is ranked, Clemson better be ranked.
Like that's a great way to put it.
What wins does Missouri have?
A 1 against Vanderbilt. And I swear to you, that is the best win. That is a very good win after our Commodores are going bowling after beating Hugh Freeze on the Plains.
That is incredible. We'll probably get into the Auburn stuff Monday or whatever, but that's awesome.
Do you think like Hugh Freeze sees Diego Pavia in his sleep?
It's like a fever dream from he was sick last week. So like Illinois drops out.
Why do we have to bring that up?
I think Pitt drops out too.
7 and
you ready
1.
for the?
You're going to drop Pitt behind Missouri? I mean, they got crushed.
Well, you think Pitt drops out?
Yeah, and here's why. Because I am judging only by the AP voters' own actions. That team was undefeated, and they only had them at 18. Like, do you understand
find
how much
teams to replace them with, though?
Yeah, that is the good question. Like, who are you putting over them?
Vanderbilt.
There's one, but you're
South
also
Carolina.
like Illinois out. South Carolina getting, yeah, they beat a top 10 team.
South Carolina just kicked Texas A&M's ass.
Tulane. Navy lost tonight, right? Like that game's final.
Yeah, Navy's losing. Last I saw.
I mean, it's like a 6-hour rain delay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Navy.
Why is it that like
is Louisville
Houston and Rice are in the same city? Are they not? So why was the Rice game delayed 6 hours? Huh? Makes you wonder.
And because they thought Navy could handle it, boats.
Yeah.
Louisville has a really good argument.
Louisville should definitely be ranked.
Well, again, like I think Louisville should be ranked and Missouri should not be ranked. But Missouri was in the rankings last week, and I'm not. I just think that the poll again coming to the stage, poll inertia. I think poll inertia is going to end up voters. Enough voters had them there, and Louisville was far enough back. But that would be one that I would not be surprised if they end up breaking in. I mean, we're nitpicking in the 20s is always going to be a little bit.
Minnesota should be ranked.
Minnesota's got a great spot too.
Won 4 straight. Their loss was to North Carolina in the opener, and then that Michigan game could have gone a lot of different ways.
Washington State is already in, Johanna, in the tailgate. Kansas State, did they fall out? They were 17th.
I mean, if we're dropping Pitt out,
you know what Kansas State has that Pitt doesn't?
A win over somebody who matters.
A win over a ranked team.
They also lost to like a 3 and 6 4 and 5, whatever Houston is.
My projection, this is not my belief, this is not my ballot for the CBS Sports 134, but my projection is that they are a 2-loss team. Colorado is a 2-loss team. They have a head-to-head win against Colorado, and that as you're starting to restack teams in that range, that can be something that saves them.
Shocker. It annoys the hell out of me that we're talking about an undefeated Pitt team losing a game, and will they fall out? Meanwhile, the 5-3 South Carolina team gets to be ranked.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Fair. But to actually go back,
I hold you personally responsible.
To actually go back and unpack that is an LSU. One of those three is like I know quality losses suck, but like they were right there against LSU. They were right there against Alabama.
An LSU team that lost to a USC team that may not make a bowl.
I mean, you can transitive your way all the way to California, but like, LSU is currently by the voters considered to be a top 18 team.
That's probably fair. I think a lot of this comes back to Missouri should not be ranked. If you're going to do this,
and
you're going to throw another SEC team in there because whatever, you need to pull Missouri out. I think people have a right to be pretty pissed off if you add another SEC team in, but you don't correct the mistake of having Missouri ranked.
I also think that the voters will react with moving SMU up to 13. I just think that SMU kicking the absolute crap out of Pitt in that game, it's just going to lead to some sticker shock.
Is A&M stay ranked?
Yes.
They got blown out.
Head-to-head win against LSU. They're a 2-loss team. LSU's a 2-loss team.
Where does Indiana end up?
I've got them jumping up into the top 10 from 13 to number 7. Got them jumping ahead of Tennessee. I've got Penn State falling from 3 to 6. And Indiana's slotted right behind Penn State.
So Tennessee struggles again against a bad team, and they're going to stay ahead of an Indiana team that absolutely throttled.
No, I just told you Indiana's ahead of Tennessee. That's where I have them moving.
So you have them in the top 6.
No, Indiana drops to 8. Indiana moves into 7.
So Tennessee jumps Indiana? Indiana jumps Tennessee?
Correct.
Okay. I could buy that.
They better if they don't, Chip. I swear to God.
I've got Boise knocking on the door of the top 10. You still keep just chopping wood.
Ashton Genty's Heisman hopes are dead, correct?
Why? Because he only went for 132 in 2 scores?
Yeah,
pretty much, yeah. It's 2 weeks in a row. He hasn't had incredible games.
We'll see. He puts up one when Melvin Gordon, who's number 2 behind Barry Sanders. I'm
gonna head to FanDuel real quick. Go ahead.
Where you can make every moment more.
I'm gonna make every moment more.
When Melvin Gordon had his season where he finished second to Barry Sanders for the single season rushing record, he had a couple of a 260, just a couple ridiculous ones. Ashton Genty could do that. He's got a 250-yard game potential coming down the stretch.
He's not playing anybody though. Cam Ward is currently your favorite at plus 185, followed by Travis Hunter at plus 230. Followed by Dylan Gabriel at 280, and then they way back, fading off into the distance, is Ashton Genty at plus 500. Any guesses as to who's 5th right now?
List again. So Cam Ward.
It's Ward, Gabriel, or Ward, Hunter, Gabriel, Genty. Who's 5th?
Carson Beck.
Not giving it. Nope. It's Jackson Dart.
Ugh. Yuck.
He has the opportunities. He has the numbers, and he will have the opportunities down the stretch.
I guess it was Cade until Clemson's lost today.
Yeah. Jackson's at 17-1. Then there's Curtis Rourke at 22-1, followed by Shador at 40. Cade at 50, Jalen at 60, Garrett at 65, and then Quinn's at 100, and Carson Beck is at 100 as well.
Interesting. Okay. Any let's see, other changes. Y'all have any like questions or projections that you got?
How much do you think the American falling apart today hurts Tulane's chances of getting ranked? Because today was not a good day for the American in terms of like conference prestige, like any hope that you had of maybe getting Tulane into the playoff. Not saying it's gone, and we're not gonna do a whole lot of playoff talk this late in the show, but like Memphis losing to UTSA is a bad result. Navy losing to Rice. The Rice team just fired their coach is a bad result. Army's quarterback's out. Like that's probably bad.
This is unfortunately just going to bring you right back into the power conference world. They lost to Oklahoma. That's a bad loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Like, I mean, when you're just stacking Tulane up, like you're going to at least throw them on the, like maybe consider it, but there's just not a lot to hold on to in terms of this proves that the Green Wave are among the 25 best teams in the country. Like I will rank South Carolina ahead of Tulane because South Carolina has done more to
Chip's a big brand booster.
Like, I mean, this
is about the names.
I think South Carolina has shown more on the field with the results in wins and losses to say that they deserve to be ranked ahead of Tulane.
Chip chance SEC when we're off the air. My favorite moment one of my favorite moments of the weekend, though, was speaking of Tulane, was they're talking to John Summerall, like the sideline interviews that you do during the broadcast. And he gives they ask him the questions and he just gives 2-word football coach answers. And then after the interview ends, he just says, I don't know what the song was. He says, this song rules, by the way. And then he goes back. They're playing.
So do we think he was listening to the song during the interview?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
He just says in the sideline report, he goes, this song rules, by the way.
We're going to score touchdowns.
Yeah. What do you got to do? We got to score touchdowns.
Does Harry know him? Like, I guess all
was
the
broadcast. Yeah, it was Thursday night. So
yeah. I guess all the broadcast teams eventually get to somewhat level of comfort or relationships with these guys.
That's a fun broadcast team, though.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Matt Berry and Mullen is they really enjoy it. You could tell.
Did you see Harry go into the stands and sit next to Michael Myers?
No, I not gonna lie.
Mudsliding
on Halloween night. I was actually not watching a lot of this game. I was watching it on my score app. Wow. Of course, I use the CBS app to watch scores. That's my score app of choice.
He goes and he's just sitting in the stands. I guess you're looking at the result where Tulane obviously just dominated the game. Couldn't cover the first half, but just dominated the game. And he's sitting in the stands next to a Michael Myers. And Michael Myers is doing total in character, just staring ahead. They get a lot of they seem to have a good sense with their production team about how to capture memeable screenshots, or little opportunities. And it looks really creepy. And Matt and Dan are like, oh, God, lock the hotel room. And Harry's like, yeah, I'm sending him for you, coach.
Harry's a commercial star now. So we have big time.
Did you guys watch USC-Washington?
Yes.
I did not.
Very much so.
What did you think?
I thought it was incredible that the team that never runs the ball and did not run the ball in the first half and found itself down 20-7, started running the ball in the second half and actually got back into the football game. It's like Lincoln Riley said, man, I actually have a good running back. Maybe I should give him the ball more.
Woody Marks is a good running back, but I'm not sure they have a good run game. But again, I didn't watch the game, so I don't want to speak to that.
They did in the second half today.
Okay.
But Washington, I felt like Washington, USC came out in the second half. They were running the ball, like I said, effectively. They got themselves back in the game, but I also feel like Washington kind of let go of the rope there. But I think if you're a USC fan, you could also make an argument they were the better team tonight. They didn't win the game.
What was that final?
26-21 Huskies. Yeah, they covered for me, but they didn't hit their team total despite having 20 points at halftime.
If Tennessee receivers catch the ball, we're thinking a little bit differently about tonight's result, right?
Yeah, they dropped 2 passes. Brazel dropped 2 that hit him right in the chest. Josh Carter, what are you talking about? Go back to the start of the show. Anyways.
Yeah, hit rewind. We're available on demand. The UAB score kept getting my attention.
Yeah, that was.
Tulsa looks like high schoolers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to just make fun of these guys, but physically, Tulsa looks like a high school team.
I've also got some
Trent was also a winner in high school, so maybe that makes sense now.
I've got some investigations that I need to dig into tomorrow and on the flight home. Mostly it's about level of investment. Okay. The Arizona Wildcats, you're under investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Quit.
Oklahoma State, you're under investigation.
Quit.
Although
Oklahoma State had the long weather delay, so they might have just.
But we've got like some previous allegations and reports that might have connected to some trends.
They were playing hard in the first half, though.
Okay, good.
And then the weather delay happened, and they just completely abandoned the game for the most part.
Did you guys watch Wyoming, New Mexico?
No,
but it was 35-35 at halftime.
Yeah, I'm a little curious how New Mexico has 45 points with 17 minutes left in the game and doesn't score anything else. Like, did the quarterback get hurt? I don't have the chats. I don't get eyes. I get eyes on a lot of games. I don't get eyes on every single game. So,
I need to open up the investigation. Should we have any concerns about investment in Tallahassee?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah,
I think they're just playing out the string.
Mac Brown, 0 wins against Florida State as a head coach. That's 2 tenures at North Carolina and also Tulane. But now he's got one.
Got one now.
Syracuse winning in overtime against Virginia Tech.
Oh, I got some DMs about this. Yeah. Brent Pry is now worse than Matt Rule in close games. He's 1-11 in one-score games.
And like Virginia Tech did not have Kyron Jones in this game. That said, Virginia Tech also
Drones didn't play or two?
Drones didn't play.
I didn't watch this game. So.
Colin Schlee started, and he played the entire game. And that matters, but at the same time, Virginia Tech also had a 21-3 lead in this game in the third quarter.
That does change my opinion. I don't think Colin Schlee's any good, but
neither do I.
He did have to come in the Vandy loss.
Yep. Yeah, it did not work well.
And it did not work well.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the story is with Drones because it was very much a surprise kind of like announcement right before kick. Like, hey, Kyron Jones isn't playing today, by the way. Same with Bryson Daly, although there was Bryson Daly rumors the last couple of days. But I hadn't heard anything about Kyron Jones until this morning. And Tootin didn't play either. And Virginia Tech still nearly won.
Let's see what else.
Illinois lost. Not thrilled about it.
You want to talk about it?
No.
I like if somebody asked me about the game and all I had was commentary from an inside source who understands the Illinois program better than anybody else in America. So, if that person doesn't want to share their thoughts, I'm not going to read your text on the.
I thought the team played pretty well today. I thought one guy in particular did not play very well.
Sunbelt thoughts?
What the hell, South Alabama?
Dude, Georgia Southern goes in there, gets the dub. Coastal Carolina switches play callers from Trickett to Beck, and they score 24 points on Troy, which is like not good, but also not horrendous. So
South Alabama had a 30-14 lead going into the fourth quarter, and they lost 34-30. Just lighting my future ticket on fire.
That's the second time that the Eagles have done this. They also did it to Marshall 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like just crazy comebacks late.
Mm-hmm.
Louisiana looks like the best team in this league, by the way.
They do.
I think. But
they looked really good against Texas State during the week.
Oh, how about Toledo almost losing to Eastern?
That's not a shock at all.
Whoa, no. Okay, this is as I said, my Eastern Michigan Eagles. Okay,
Yeah,
like right down the road, right here. Okay,
Chips in the hotel Max Crosby built right now.
We had them. Okay, just because the 2-point try didn't work, at least you're going for it. Okay, you know you've got the candle in your house on the turf that Max Crosby paid for. You almost snuffed that candle out. You almost snuffed it out right there. Just couldn't quite get it done.
They did blow it though.
Yeah,
pretty badly. I had in the hotel breakfast, like a lot of Michigan fans. They were sitting around like old men in their 60s talking about their bedtimes and old Big Ten players like Marion Barber and Lawrence Maroney eating oatmeal. Then a couple Eastern Michigan fans, oh yeah, y'all are the real ones. Y'all aren't fair weather. Y'all came here to see the Eagles play today. Good for you.
It's the nicest restaurant in town.
All right.
Ypsilanti's a nice city.
We've got a special guest.
What?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Who do you have in that room with you?
Oh no. Let me get this set. Because there's a game we haven't talked about. Mikey, wake up, Mikey. I don't have the access, but we're gonna get a special report from a game that we haven't gotten a chance.
I know what this is gonna be.
Yeah, there's a game we hadn't gotten to hit yet. Let's see if we get it, because some games we're able to get eyes on.
Mikey.
Some games that we're at. Some games you're able to talk about just from watching it on the quad box, but it's like very few times you're like actually there, on the sideline for the whole game.
I know who the guest is.
Yeah. Are we gonna get it?
Yes.
Let's go. Amanda Guerra, the GOAT. Let's go. All right. So we have not talked at all about Colorado State's win there in Reno. So what can you give us? Amanda Guerra on the call for the mothership CBS Sports Network. So thrilled you could join us here at this hour.
This is my first time ever on. I'm so honored. I know, like, Tom's probably just having a fit over there, but I am very excited to be here. So thank you.
Nobody cleared this with me.
See? This man has, but I get texts about this podcast, and they let me know what Tom is saying. Okay, so yes, it was really cold. So if I'm like very pink, I just took off all my makeup. Colorado State got the dub over Nevada, and I think for Nevada, it's so frustrating because you can see how much Jeff Choate wants it. And the whole thing that he preaches to his team is just discipline. And they just made so many mistakes tonight. So on the side of Colorado State, their whole thing, they're looking at the Mountain West title right now because they could very well be on their way to that. I think the only thing that's interesting about them is I've had them twice now and they get really big leads. And then come around the fourth quarter, they let those teams back in. So
good to know.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. But it was fun. It was good. It was cold. Their center did go down for Colorado State, Jacob Gardner, and he's basically the second best player on their team. Yeah. So that's going to be
Amanda always gives you good injury information. It's the best.
I have a lot of injury information, and I found out this was the best part of the game that Colorado State. It's freezing cold, so I'm like trying to see if I can get next to something, and I see this like container and I think it's hot chocolate, and I'm just going to allow myself to have some of that, even though it's a team's. It was chicken broth.
Yeah.
So Colorado State, like that is what, like they have their own secret recipe, and that's what they serve on cold games.
That's, because it's supposed to warm up like the whole body and also like replenish. And it's
filled with nutrients.
Mm-hmm. No, it can help with cramping. The chicken broth. Yeah,
I feel like the sodium would lead to more cramps.
Oh, that's
no.
I think you're making shit up. I think you're just going off the cuff here.
Yeah, are we sure on that?
That's how
Chip is not a doctor. All right, don't listen to him.
Oh my God.
Chip
I
indeed.
did when I was playing soccer, because I grew up in Texas and we'd play these. I did competitive soccer there. And like at 108-degree weather days, like we're still playing because they're psycho. And our coaches, this is way back in the day, would like have us put extra salt on our food to replenish all the sweat. And I think that's why I'm addicted to salt. I have an issue.
Not just growing
long
up
as
in
we're doing
Texas in
something an
general.
hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
trying to-
also a part of it.
Nothing to do with Buc-ee's or anything. Yeah, no.
I don't think your coach was a scientist either.
Did you guys ever drink pickle juice?
Yeah, I have drank pickle
Yeah.
juice. Yes.
Pickle juice, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like there's probably nothing in the pickles. It's just like a lot of salt.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
You
But
see that a
then
lot
why
on
can't you
NFL
drink salt
guidelines
water?
right now.
See, now we're going to be here all night. If salt is good for you, then why would drinking salt water kill you? It dehydrates you.
I've actually wondered, like, if I was stranded in the ocean, how much of that water I could drink before something bad happened. But on the salt side of it.
Oh, now, well, if I remember, I haven't seen Castaway in a long time, but I don't think you're supposed to drink it, and I think that's how Wilson dies.
It's a volleyball.
The volleyball.
So,
He
if you
did.
get water in it, it's going to sink.
He did deflate, I think.
Yeah, see? Again, Chip showing how little he understands about science on the Cover 3 podcast.
Sunrises, sunsets. I don't get science and math. I mean, this is you should know this by now.
Chip showed up to
explain
physics
this-
talking vibes. Like, whoa. I'll tell you what gravity's about, all right?
When does the time change? Tonight?
Yeah,
Tonight.
we get an
It
extra
is
hour.
tonight.
Chip, explain that.
Well,
If time's not real, how does it stop? It's fair.
it's always vibes o'clock in my mind.
Speaking of saltwater, freshwater, I do got to shout out my brother-in-law here. So he was doing the kayak with the kids out back, and this huge bass comes up and hits this big bluegill, and he actually like just total catfish style snatches the bass barehanded. Look at this, bro.
Nice.
In that, yeah, like
That's a big one.
that, yeah, dude. Like, anyway, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because like, where's the? I thought he was like playing around, like no rod, no reel, just saw it hit the bluegill, turn around, just
The way nature intended.
You
Just
know
South
what
stick
that's
your hand in
called in Oklahoma.
noodling.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Do they have water in Oklahoma?
Oh,
We have
hold on.
rivers.
I mean, it's a landlocked
And
state. I'm just not
Lakes.
sure.
Yeah. You can
right.
you can noodle in.
Are they
lakes.
natural or did you make them?
They're natural. It's Oklahoma. No, but listen, since we've got Amanda Guerra on here, we got to ask: when were you score tracking or watching when Maine went up 7-0?
Oh.
Or live betting.
I didn't see the beginning of the game, so I didn't know that. I mean, not surprised. It now takes us Maine to win. Like, when was the last time Oklahoma lost 3 games in a row?
Well, the thing is, the final score is going to make. If you did not pay a single bit of attention to this game, which like had a kickoff time moved because of inclement weather, like if all the things that could happen for this game to just be like, a tree falls in the woods, does anybody hear it type situation? Like it was all there. It's like, oh, Oklahoma won by a whole bunch of points against their FCS opponent. Cool, thanks. Everything move on. But I mean, there was a solid 45 minutes of this Week 10 Saturday before everything went haywire, where it's like, I mean, that's a fireable offense, right? I mean, if you lose to Maine, that would be, but again, didn't happen. That's in another universe. But the Maine Bears jumped out to a lead against Oklahoma at home, and that was an uncomfortable spot for a hot minute.
Oh, that game was in Norman, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma's not going to Maine.
That's not great.
All right,
But
Amanda,
I didn't know that you guys, until I listened to you guys, that there might be some unhappiness behind the scenes. And that
the coaching
very
staff?
sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
you guys are 5-7. All right. Or you're not 5-7. I'm sorry. You're 5-4. You've got 3 games left. You got Missouri on the road, Alabama, and LSU on the road. Are you guys going bowling?
Yes.
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to Missouri, but I mean,
it's your best shot.
Coach, I know they're tenacious. I've covered them a couple times, and they just do not quit. So I would hope I'm going. This is very exciting for me. My game that week is the day after Thanksgiving on a Friday. I'll be in San Jose, and I'm going to fly to Baton Rouge for the OU LSU game. And I've never been to a game at Baton Rouge, and I'm super excited.
It's gonna be
a fun place to watch.
Yeah,
football.
it's awesome.
I'm really excited about the tailgate. Really, like, just I want to know if I can tailgate hop. Like, even if I don't know them, just to go try whatever food they have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. I did that in college, and I would just offer Fireball to everyone.
You don't even need to do the exchange, but they will love you even more if you're bringing the exchange. I'll give you the same advice I've given many. Look for the double-decker bus. And look for the double-decker bus. There's like a bunch of trees overhanging. Mm-hmm. It's very close to the stadium. Like if you did a loop around the stadium, you'll find it. They'll take care of you.
I want all the gumbo and jambalaya, and this is what I'm expecting. I feel like this is what they need to be cooking. Like if I see some chicken wings, that's not it.
But what if they're being cooked in a trash can, upside down, and seasoned just right?
You had me at trash can. Have you ever eaten anything or drank anything out of a trash can that wasn't delicious? Like not out of a trash, but that was made and prepared in a trash can. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had anything out of a trash can.
You never drank beer out of a keg, like somebody dropped in a trash can? Like that kind of counts.
No, that doesn't count. No, I'm talking about like a punch.
Yeah, like a punch that's made in a trash can at like a party.
Yeah, because if you pour the Everclear around the edge, it kills all the germs.
Yeah. Yes. I have done that. Chip finally learned science. Look at that. Full circle moment. Chip learned something.
I got to go to better parties. I feel like there's not enough people drinking that much anymore. We need a trash can to make the punch. But
this is what happens when you didn't go to a Big Ten school.
Okay,
yeah, Florida State's lacking in a lot of areas.
I went to a Big 12 school, but never had trash cans.
See, we're a little different in the Midwest. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those graphics that show like the most drinking states. They're all Big Ten states.
Okay, fair. I did not know that, but fair.
I think in Wisconsin, everybody's drunk most of the time.
And you get to find out when Tom gets to go on the next Mountain Dew activation up to Madison, Wisconsin from Minnesota, Wisconsin on the day after Thanksgiving. Amanda will be in San Jose. Tom will be at Wisconsin. We'll be all over the place.
That'll be exciting. Tom, what happened to your team today?
They lost a football game, something Oklahoma's done plenty of times this year and knows a whole hell of a lot about. That's what happened.
This is what I get text messages about. These little jib jabs.
You just took a shot at me.
We do have to know, because we've already established that Chip does not read Tom's writing. And I just look at the graphics and then text Tom without reading the explanations. So I guess I'm out as well. Does Amanda read Tom's work?
Yes, I do. More so if I know I have a segment with him coming up, because I want to know what he says. But yes, Tom is one of the names. If I am reading an article and I pay attention to who wrote it, I will see his name in the byline.
Well, now I want to end the podcast. I want to know who if she sees the name, she doesn't read it.
And you can find that out on Amanda's next appearance, because you can follow him on Twitter at BudElliott3. You can follow him at Tom Fornelli. You can follow her at Amanda Guerra CBS, right? Off the top of my head.
That is, yeah, it's my Twitter, and then my what is the thing called? Instagram, but it's like MND to Senorita or something. So whatever.
All right. Amanda,
I messed up the flow. Keep flowing.
You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. We will be back on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern time for Upon Further Review. Bud, Tom, Amanda, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ta-ta.